Les Sneed and Sean McVay discuss the possibility of the Rams trading for Jalen Ramsey, and it certainly sounds like the door is still open. That's coming up next on Locked On Rams.
You are Locked On Rams, your daily Los Angeles Rams podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Ramley, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Rams, your daily podcast covering your Los Angeles Rams, free and available wherever you hear podcasts. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We're also available over on YouTube, so if you haven't yet, do us a huge favor, join the party, get you close to 17,000 subscribers, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, hit the like button, and also let us know, do you want to see the Rams get Jalen Ramsey back? Would you want to see him back in the Horns? Let us know. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. I've been covering LA sports for over a decade, 24/7 sports, Bleacher Report, SI, Dodgers Nation. As always, I'm joined by the Rams pre-half and post-game show host for the Rams flagship radio station, ESPN 710 LA. He's entering his 10th season covering your Los Angeles Rams, the people's champ, Mr. Travis Rogers. You can follow him on X at Travis Rogers. And on today's episode, the draft is tomorrow, but could the Rams swing a trade and fill a major need by bringing back an old star player? Also, more talk about the Rams drafting a quarterback. An analyst says that Super Bowl contenders don't draft quarterbacks. Is that really true? And also, we're taking a look at some of the best Rams first-round picks ever. But first, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $250 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. All right, Travis, so this Jalen Ramsey talk is starting to heat up a little more. There's definitely some smoke here. Typically, when GMs and coaches are asked about a player that's on the block, they give a cliche answer and don't really say much, but they were pretty candid yesterday. Les Sneed and Sean McVay, in their pre-draft press conference, they were asked about trading back for Jalen Ramsey, and Sneed said, I know I've had discussions with Miami, so we discussed getting through the draft. I know there's a lot of nuances to that situation based on all the things that come with the trade, contracts and things like that, so not sure where they're at in the process. And what's interesting in this is a lot of teams right now are focused on the draft, but this is when a lot of teams reach out, not just Jalen, but, oh, by the way, how things go in the draft, there's other players that could be available. So that's pretty interesting. Just kind of saying that they've had discussions with Miami. It shows that we talked about on the show, there's more than a 0% chance that Jalen Ramsey is a Ram next season.
Yeah, I think that they're, certainly more than a 0% chance. And I don't know if I would go as far as to say it's likely, but I think that it's certainly possible. And I think maybe somewhere between likely and possible. This seems like a really good fit. I think that this makes sense for both the player and the team. I think that they could certainly use what Jalen Ramsey brings as a football player. To be sure, I still think that he's got a lot of ability. Maybe he's not the all-pro player that he was a few years ago, but he's certainly a very good player. And I think that what also is incredibly important to what he at least potentially could bring is what he'd bring from a toughness perspective, from a leadership perspective, that Jalen Ramsey is one of those guys that is going to be a leader no matter what. He's a guy that's going to set the tone for your football team. He knows the culture of the Rams. He knows what to expect coming in here. They know exactly what they would get from him. And you've heard me say this before, and I don't think this is just exclusive to football. I think it's exclusive to most coaches. They want to know that their guy is going to do what their guy is supposed to do. And I think Jalen Ramsey fits that mold perfectly. So, yeah, I obviously with the draft, just right around the corner, there are probably larger fish to fry at this point. But I think Jalen Ramsey coming back to LA is a real possibility and one that I'm excited about. I hope that it happens.
Yeah, and I think Sean McVay even took it a step further with his comments. He said, yeah, he's a great player. We know him very well. We know him intimately. He would certainly never rule out the possibility of that, but as you point out, but he said, like let's articulate, our focus and concentration is on this week's upcoming draft. But he also said that he can do a lot of different things like he's continued to do, like he did here, like he did in Jacksonville, and like he's done for the last couple of years in Miami. So it sounds like there's been internal conversations about it, and if they could somehow pull it off, that they consider it. The thing that's kind of in between it is the contract. I mean, he signed an extension with the Dolphins last offseason. It's worth $72.1 million for 3 years. So that deal is going to kick in starting in 2026. So, yeah, I mean, you kind of wonder from the financial standpoint. I mean, we don't even know what Matthew Stafford's contract even is.
Right.
I mean, as far as the adjusted contract. So from the finances, here's the thing, though. I mean, it's kind of one of those things where if they're talking about it, they know that there's some maneuvering where at least there's some chance that they could get it done, even though it would be tricky financially.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things going on here. You know, two things. You don't want to get involved with an aging player who makes a lot of money for a long period of time. So they're going to have to figure out a way to structure a deal that would give the Rams some financial flexibility, so they're not locked into something that they wouldn't want to do beyond maybe a year. Now, that being said, I think that what we've seen the Rams do with Davante Adams, what we've seen them do with Matthew Stafford, what we've seen them do with some other players here or there is they're very much in a window like they were when they won Super Bowl 56. They're this may be a damn the torpedoes moment and just say, hey, do it. We'll figure it out later. Go ahead and bring in the player. That our window is open this year. Matthew Stafford has another year of high-level play right now. Davante Adams has another year of high-level play right now. Let's go get this done. We can't worry about what it looks like in 2026 and beyond. We will figure that out when it's time to figure that out. And we've seen the Rams when they get in these situations before. They're really aggressive. They're really aggressive about going out and getting players that they want that maybe do not feel like solutions beyond the immediate future, but that doesn't mean they don't do them. This feels like something they would have done back then, and everything else leading up to this feels like something they were doing leading up to that Super Bowl 56 run. So I would not be surprised at all, assuming that there's some way to structure a deal where they can get out of it when they need to get out of it. But this feels really, really like blank them picks era all over again. And maybe it's not picks involved right here, but this is a go get the player. We'll worry about the money and the age in the future later.
Yeah, they do have the draft capital to get it done. I mean, whether it's they have multiple third-round picks or you could give them a late pick.
Think about what they traded for him when they sent him to Miami in the first place. The cost wasn't, as far as like draft capital goes, wasn't much at all. So I would imagine that's not a huge hang-up. It's probably more like you mentioned, Doug, which is just the amount of money that they're going to have to pay him while he's here and trying to make sure that they still have enough money to pay everyone else. But you know, that stuff, my pal Keyshawn Johnson, my old co-host here on 710 ESPN used to say, if they want to pay a guy, they can pay a guy. They can always figure out a way to get it done. That don't let the cap fool you, that if they want to do it, they can do it. So we'll see how badly they want to do it.
Yeah, and really you have no guaranteed money past this season. It's just the deal that he did sign. I think the truth is, look, on the simplest terms, the Rams need to upgrade that position. And even right now, he'd be immediately the best corner that they had. Then also there's been talk that he'd move to safety. And I think that, I mean, with his physicality, with his knowledge, I think he would crush it as a safety if Chris Shula is still around. I mean, look like guys like Rod Woodson, kind of those type of guys have made that transition. And you talk about his skill level. I mean, he was ranked as a top 10 cornerback still at this age. He was the only top 10 cornerback on PFF that was north of 30. So, yeah, I mean, age is certainly a thing as far as guys falling off a cliff at that position. But, yeah, I mean, it's definitely something where if this team, as you said, is kind of as all in as they're kind of making it seem, you could do what I hope they would do is you draft a guy that has upside that Jalen Ramsey could honestly take under his wing and he could benefit from that relationship. But also you bring in the veteran where you know he's plug and play. So you're not banking on a rookie to figure things out in year one. By the way, they got Byron Young with that pick in that trade. So that actually worked out. Yeah, no, this is really, I think, a win or a nothing proposition. I don't think that there's a ton of downside. Now, maybe he comes in there and, like you said a second ago, Doug, sometimes cornerbacks and defensive backs just show up. It's like, oh, he doesn't have it anymore. I'll take my chances with Jalen Ramsey. I don't think that's likely. Like you said, he's such a smart player. He's such an experienced player that even if maybe his athleticism has started to decline a little, he's certainly going to be able to make up with it for everything else that he brings. So the odds of you and I sitting here in week 6 or 7 next season and saying,
Jalen Ramsey's killing this team are virtually zero. I think it's maybe he didn't bring as much as we thought, but I think there's a lot of upside. There's very little down. And I would really look at it. I think this all comes down to where you can fit him in financially and what he's willing to do. Because when the word was out that he was shopped, very clearly the Rams went right to the top of the list. They did not leave with hard feelings on either side. This was just the business of the NFL. So I think he can come back in very easily and make a positive impact.
Absolutely, man. Go to the cleaners, get that mariachi suit, and get the rest of the band back together. You got Darius Williams back. I mean, call Eric Weddle, man, and just get the whole band back together and make another run. But I'm definitely all for it. I really do think that they could pull this off. You'd seriously want to consider it. But sure. Coming up next, we're talking more about the draft tomorrow and the possibility of the Rams drafting a quarterback. That's coming up next on Locked On Rams.
The NBA playoffs are here, right? Lakers, big win last night for the Lakers. That was huge. FanDuel is giving you a chance, new customers, right? An incredible way to get in on all of this playoff action. And by the way, it's not just the playoffs, right? The LA Kings got their game 2 coming up tonight, and a wild game 1. So if you had the over, right, that's going to hit for sure 11 goals in that game. So right now, when you join FanDuel and you place your first $5 bet, easy for me to say, you can get $250 in bonus bets if you hit that first bet. So FanDuel, you've heard me talk about this for a very long time. I just absolutely love how FanDuel makes betting incredibly easy, whether it's picking your favorite team, the local teams, maybe where you're from, or diving into some player props along the way. That's a fun way to do it too. You got 3 pointers to steals to assists. FanDuel has so many ways to bet your favorite player props. And after the game tips off, you can even combine some live prop bets into the same game parlay for a chance to win big, right? So don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today.
And we are off and running here on Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday. Free and available wherever you get your podcast. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Special shout out to those every listeners out there watching and listening to every single episode of Locked On Rams. We've got a lot of new listeners and viewers on YouTube recently. So if you're new to the channel, join the Every Listeners Club. You just watch every single episode and you won't miss a thing about your Los Angeles Rams. All right, Travis, here in our second segment. Now, we've talked about this topic ad nauseum about will the Rams draft a quarterback, and that definitely is a storyline. I do think it's more of a smoke screen, but this is a really interesting blanket statement by ESPN NFL analyst Dan Orlovsky when he was asked about the Rams. He said that Super Bowl teams don't draft quarterbacks, and I'm pretty surprised that he did make this blanket statement about that, and he was referencing the possibility of taking Jackson Dart in the first round and guys like that. And that is that a quarterback that could set them up for the next 10 years. And look, I just think that, obviously these aren't apples to apples direct comparisons, but I mean, there are multiple examples. I mean, when the Chiefs took Patrick Mahomes, they were coming off a 12-4 season in 2017. The Ravens, when they took Lamar Jackson, they were coming off a 9-7 season. And there's just examples out there. I mean, 49ers were contenders when they took Trey Lance. The Packers were contenders when they took Jordan Love. So there's examples out there, but that does not mean that I disagree with him as far as how it relates to the Rams, just because I wouldn't use a number 26 pick on Jackson Dart or Jalen Milroe or even Shador Sanders, if I'm being quite 100% honest.
Well, okay, let's talk about this for a second. I think where this comes from matters a great deal. I think that who he's talking about matters a great deal. Matthew Stafford and Dan Orlovsky were teammates in Detroit for a season. Okay. They, I believe, have a relationship. Dan Orlovsky has taken up for Matthew Stafford on multiple occasions. And I understand why. He's a fan. He saw it up close. He knows what it looks like. I get all of these things. I think this could be, and I'm just speculating here. I am just putting the pieces together and putting together my own private conspiracy theory here. That this is Matthew Stafford lobbying through a third party for don't go get a quarterback, get me something I can use right now. That if you want to go win the Super Bowl right now, what good does having Jackson Dart be good in 2028 do us? The answer is it doesn't. That what good is it to have the quarterback of the future for 2029 today? It doesn't help me. I need a tight end. I need another wide receiver. We need another cornerback. We need something that's going to help the 2025 Rams go back to the Super Bowl, and the quarterback of the future does not do that. So I'm just the player that we're talking about, the source that we're talking about, the position that we're talking about, all of those things to me feel like, hey, dude, let's fight today. I don't have to worry about what we're fighting for later, because of course teams draft quarterbacks for the future. Of course they do. Any good team, and the Rams are a good team, think about what's coming next to try to be as set up for the future while being good in the present as possible. And, look at what the Packers did with Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre. Look at what the Packers did with Jordan Love and Aaron Rodgers, that you always have that next guy kind of in the building long before you actually need the guy. And if the quarterback position is the most important position on the field, and I think we all think that it is, that if there's a player you like, you go get him. Doesn't do the starting quarterback any good. And I understand why he wouldn't want one in there, or why somebody that is advocating for that would take that position. I get it. But I think all of the pieces of this together make you go, all right, yeah, okay, sure. I hear what you're saying. And it's not necessarily wrong, but I don't think that is a blanket statement that I agree with. I think in this particular case, I understand why it's being said.
Yeah, I mean, look, the truth of the matter is that I think that's really interesting, by the way. I mean, just kind of using the media. He's definitely a prominent dude who has made a lot of strides in the media as one of the kind of...
It's not a crazy take. It's a perfectly reasonable take. It's just one of those, who are we talking about and where's it coming from? And if the Rams had, if this were 3 years ago, you don't think about this, but we just went through a contract negotiation. You just went through a, do I want to go somewhere else or not sort of situation. And, all right, let's run this back one more year. And then to turn around and draft a quarterback, if I were the quarterback, would be like, well, what are we doing here? How does that help me? I understand it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the funny thing is that the draft class with Mahomes was considered to be a weak draft class for quarterbacks. Mm-hmm. And that's just how it was viewed back then. I mean, 1996, there were no quarterbacks drafted in that draft. I mean, there's going to be someone in this draft as a quarterback that is probably going to do something at the very least. I mean, will that be any of the three guys they've been linked to? That we do not know. I mean, you go deep into the kind of the Tyler Shucks of the world and guys like that. Are they major players? Well, only time will tell. But I do think that with Matthew Stafford, he just kind of has to accept the fact that, hey, this is an organization that at some point has to think about life after you. Yeah. But I do think just the moves that they've made have indicated that they're going to go all in for the upcoming season. I just think that, like, the Packers with Jordan Love, they're a little more of a kind of like a sensible kind of organization that knows that they can't get stars in other ways.
Well, and there's another element to it, too. I agree with what you just said, that certain teams have paths to players that other teams do not. I get that. The Rams, the Lakers, the Dodgers, the teams, LA is, you don't have time to just, we got the people. You have to try for it over and over. And maybe if you're the Lakers or the Dodgers, you can have a down year here and there, and you got enough institutional equity that people are going to stick with you. The Rams are in the process of building that, but in Green Bay, you can wait. Where people aren't going anywhere. There's no other team to root for. There's no other thing to do. So I think that plays an element to this as well, that you have to be thinking about what's next. There has to be an element of sizzle to it as well. This is LA. This is what matters to fans here to a certain degree. So you have to factor all of these things in, that they're going to go for it right up until they don't, and then they're going to go for it again. So whether they go for it in this draft or the next draft, but it's coming soon. It's just a matter of which draft it's going to happen in, or maybe another big trade.
Yeah, and for me, I mean, I agree with Orlovsky just as it pertains to the Rams, even if he's doing his friend a solid in the media, just because, one, I mean, I just don't think there's anyone special. I mean, outside of maybe Cam Ward, I mean, Dart, Milroe, you'll develop them, but they're not going to be game changer top 5 quarterbacks. I mean, you can clip this. I just don't believe that,
Well,
and then also with Stafford, I mean, you're basically, okay, you got a guy, it could be his last season, could be his second to last season. Either way, he's got a couple of seasons with this Super Bowl window cracked open. Why get a guy that's not going to play? Especially when you need cornerback, especially when you need a linebacker. You can add another edge. You can add another wide receiver weapon. I don't want to, in 20, 30 years from now, look back and kind of see, oh, Packers won one Super Bowl, Aaron Rodgers, Stafford won one with the Rams. It couldn't have been another one with a player that could take your roster to another level. We saw what they got out of Jared Verse last year in year one, right? And then the third thing is I see people out there saying, oh, what if Matthew Stafford gets injured? Wouldn't it be better to have a rookie guy? I'm like, you got Jimmy Garoppolo, and Jimmy Garoppolo is not going to win you a Super Bowl. And the truth is he'll probably just help you get a better draft pick where it's going to be a better quarterback draft. So the truth is, Stafford gets injured, I'm here to tell you, season's over.
Yeah, I was going to say.
You will not see Dick Vermeil coming to the podium mentioning some dude that they're going to rally around and they're going to win a Super Bowl, right? Yeah. That was a once in a sport really thing.
If Matthew Stafford gets hurt for any extended period of time, that's it, right? That's, by the way, that's not just a Rams thing. That's every team in the NFL. If their starting quarterback misses a huge chunk of time, that is a wrap. It just, there aren't 32 good ones. So guys don't have good ones stashed on the side. So I think I'm with you there. The other part about this draft, maybe not having a special quarterback. Look, I don't mean to blow the lid off of the great secret about all of this stuff. Nobody knows anything. Okay, if anybody knew anything, you would never have any busts high. You would never have any hidden gems low. You're just doing the best you can. You're crossing your fingers. There will be a player drafted late in this draft that we're like, how did that guy last that long? There will be a player picked very high. It could be Cam Ward. It could be Jackson Dart or Shadur Sanders or whoever it is that is just absolutely terrible. And it's like, well, why didn't we say? Because nobody knows anything. That it is an educated guess at best. You take the guy that you hope, and to think that, occasionally there's a Peyton Manning, occasionally there's an Andrew Luck where you're like, okay, that's about as close to a sure thing as there is, and it hits. But none of those guys are that. And then sometimes there's a Bo Nix of the world that's like, I don't know, man. And he's okay. And it's good enough. There's a Russell Wilson. There's a time. Nobody knows anything. So you take what you need, you cross your fingers and hope that it works out. But to think that anybody can see the future beyond, a very small handful of guys, they just don't know.
100%. I thought it was funny when Les Sneed a couple days ago admitted that they look at mock drafts as the ones that are publications that are out there as a way of saying, okay, if this guy is probably not going to last long if he's mocked in this certain round. So, even they are kind of using these projections and these ways to value players that fans do. You know what I mean? Things like that. By the way, the Dan Orlovsky going out of the back of the end zone, it just makes me want to rewatch that. He's not like kind of on the edge. My man's like fully in the back of the end zone.
Both feet were out.
Hey, look, it's Jared Allen, so you're probably kind of roll right on that one, and I probably just hand the ball off to Jared Allen at that point. But that's a classic moment, honestly. But coming up next, we're going to take a look at the best Ram drafted by round. That is coming up next on Locked On Rams.
Did you know that your Fire TV is also an Xbox? That you can turn your TV, any TV, into your gaming and entertainment hub with a Fire TV Stick 4K device, no console required. You just grab your paired controller, subscribe or sign into your Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports College Football 25, Call of Duty Black Ops 6, and Avowed as easily as you stream your favorite shows. It's gaming made simple. And it's all on your TV, right? With 4K streaming, you can watch more than 1.5 million movies and TV episodes from your favorite subscribed services, all the big ones, right? We're talking Netflix, Prime, Disney Plus, Max, and a whole bunch more. Plus, you can play high-quality Xbox games at a fraction of the cost of a console. And if you already have a console, a Fire TV Stick 4K device is more affordable and easier to travel with, allowing you to take maybe your kids' games wherever you can plug in. So head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On. Let me give you that again. Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Games Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K, that's second generation, Fire TV Stick 4K Max, first and second generation, and Fire TV Cube, third generation.
And welcome back to Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday. Free and available wherever you get your podcast. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. All right, Travis. So we're going to look at the best Rams draft picks by round. We're going to count down to the latest to the earliest, and we'll probably stretch this out for a couple of days. But we got to start with the UDFAs. And, of course, you got to have Kurt Warner right at the top there. And this is a guy who went to Northern Iowa, was with the Packers, and then famously was bagging groceries. I remember I looked it up one time. It was called the Hy-Vee.
Yeah.
Hy-Vee grocery store. It's making $5.50 an hour. Question I have: you ever been at the grocery store and you got the paper towel thing, and you like throw the paper towel like it's a yeah? Do you think he did that? He must have been doing that so well. People were like shocked, like he's
he
throwing
was
like 40
probably
yards on a
dropping
dime
from aisle 10 into aisle 2 over the top of the Doritos and the Cokes and just, making it rain out there. No, I think, I'm always a little reluctant to say, never say never, but I'm pretty sure we are never going to see a Kurt Warner-like story again. We're going to see guys come from small schools. We're going to see guys go undrafted to turn into pretty good players. But the story arc from, like you said, Arena League quarterback, bagging groceries to, getting a chance because the starting quarterback was hurt to being on the greatest show on turf. Like it literally is a movie that they turned it into, only it was his real life. Just an extraordinary story for Kurt Warner for sure.
That's a really good point. I mean, there's all these everything's just overused these days. Like, oh, this is a movie. Oh,
yeah.
You got the
was a movie.
Easy meme where you're saying pure cinema. It's like, no. It was a movie, and they made a movie about it. It was called American Underdog, and it's one of the most underrated sports films of all time. It has an IMDb of over 7. For some reason, people sleep on this one. But, yeah, no, it's absolutely incredible to look at what he accomplished and the fact that he steps in, they win a Super Bowl. And it's not like, okay, this guy's serviceable, right? Like a Trent Dilfer kind of – he was like the reason why
he lit it up.
On turf existed, along with the great receivers and running backs of that team, for sure.
Yeah, no, he absolutely lit it up. It wasn't that he came in and kept the train on the tracks. It was he came in and he lit it up. And it's one of the it's a great career. It's a Hall of Fame career, but it's also kind of a weird career because he had the run with the Rams. They win the Super Bowl, but it felt like, maybe they should have gotten one more in there. We all know what happened with New England. And then, of course, he goes to the Giants and it just flat doesn't work there. It just doesn't work out. He ends up in Arizona kind of feeling like it's going to be one of those, slow descents into, hey, remember that guy? And then he does it again. He takes the Arizona Cardinals of all team within this much of winning a Super Bowl, if not for one of the great plays from Roethlisberger to Santonio Holmes for a touchdown late in that. He's a 2-time Super Bowl champion on 2 different teams, one of them the Arizona Cardinals. I mean, just an extraordinary story. A great, great, great player.
Yeah, I mean, talking about it, 2-time MVP, right? I mean, played 6 seasons with the Rams, 12 seasons total. I mean, 2-time league MVP. I mean, that's already just incredibly impressive. Does it feel like they could have squeezed one more out of it? I mean, they absolutely should have for sure. Yeah. That's kind of for a different topic right there. But I do still think that if they had not gone to the dark navy and gold and they stick with the Rams colors, that they win that second Super Bowl. I mean, don't tell me that wasn't a factor.
I will never, ever get with that color scheme. It just, I no. And you know what? I'll say this though, Doug. The good thing about that color palette was when they did that is it is a very clear visual cue that we're talking about the St. Louis Rams. I know when they came back here, they very briefly had that color palette as well, but that gold color, the Rams are yellow. They are not gold. And that gold color is a St. Louis thing, not a Los Angeles thing.
For sure. I mean, at the time, that was kind of the trend in sports jersey aesthetics to go kind of darker. Yeah. But you can't top the current colors. But we'll continue this list tomorrow, and the draft is coming up. So it's going to be exciting. Probably do a couple shows, some reaction shows that they'll drop when we're reacting to the picks. So be on the lookout for that. But that's going to do it for this episode of Locked On Rams. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMac_LA. And you can follow the People's Champ, Mr. Travis Rogers, at Travis Rogers. And until next time, whose house? It's Locked On Rams house.